Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to the Comedy Review, the show where this year viewership is plummeting faster than an American aircraft. Yeah, do me a favour and get in one. It's also the show where we talk about things that happen in motorsport. Things like this. The Tifosi commit deforestation, Jenson Button joins OnlyFans, and Sauber managed to embarrass themselves even more. Yes, they genuinely posted this on social media.
Wrong.
Boom, boom.
A fair bit to get into then, and we start here. It's car launch season, and a very different one than most fans are used to, thanks mainly to F1's 75 Live, which I've already covered in detail earlier this week, and yes, the plugs are starting this early. While teams were required to keep their 2025 liveries under wraps until the event, well, apart from Haas, who are just f***ing stupid, several outfits decided to put on traditional launches anyway, though I'm starting to think traditional isn't the right word anymore. Yes, in bizarre scenes, Valentine's Day saw Williams host a launch event for their FW47, in a showcase that ended up being less about the car and more about... Actually, I don't know.
Now, ordinarily, today I'd be making love to my wife under a waterfall somewhere.
Yeah, I don't quite remember asking.
We could not let this day pass without marking it in some fashion. So, in the spirit of St. Valentine, later in the show, one lucky member of our audience will join us on stage to be thoroughly romanced for the viewing pleasure of motorsport fans all around the world.
What is this, a car launch or James Vowles' porn history? The next 30 minutes did little to shift that tone, as thousands of fans around the world got to find out what Williams' new 2025 tyre trolley looked like, or whether Alex Albon sleeps with his cock out.
I know. I heard the other day.
He's been watching you.
Then Bossman himself was wheeled onto stage, which would have been a very inappropriate joke a few years ago, to test his knowledge in a segment called
James's big, throbbing brain.
Yeah, now I'm done. We then finally got to see the 2025 Challenger, decked out in a camo livery, which looked as if it had received more attention than the real one we saw at F1's 75. The FW47 was thus sent out on its first installation laps live with Team Radio Broadcast 2, as meme content creators around the world sat and crossed their fingers for Carlos Sainz to stack it into a wall. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and instead attention drew back to this mysterious audience member who was about to be sacrificed on stage. That ended up being this old white man. Oh, sorry, this old white man. You know what, thank God he was white, that cock-up could have been quite awkward otherwise.
Prepare to enter a realm of pure pleasure. Pleasure you never knew was even possible.
Pleasure you never knew was even possible. God, I hope he's not married.
Are you married or single?
Married.
Is she here? Is she here?
Yeah.
But she's
Okay,
here.
good. She's got a front row seat. Fantastic. Hello, wife.
Oh, Our special guest Valentine would be none other than 2009 world champion Jenson Button, bearing gifts of roses and a taxidermised Logan Sargent. And if this Williams launch taught us one thing, maybe it's that having F1 regulate everything isn't such a bad idea after all. Williams weren't the only team shaking down their car at Silverstone, as McLaren beat them to it just a few days earlier. This saw their own camo livery take to the track, potentially the design team's first bit of work all year. Though to be the first team out of the blocks, the compromises were on full display as well. Drivers Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri having to dress up as bin liners before hopping into the car. The Scuderia were another outfit to host their own bespoke launch event, though being the day after F1's 75, barely anyone seemed to care about it. Not in Italy, however, as fans flocked to the Fiorano circuit, more turned on than ever to catch a glimpse of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc and their new machinery. This man was so devoted he was willing to add to global warming just to get a better view of his heroes, and yet despite the many comments on social media regarding this, they don't quite come as close to our ex-Bellend of the week. The Spanish, and it's 2025 now, which should be obvious to most people, unless you're still talking about Abu Dhabi, or in this case, Carlos Sainz being ousted by the Scuderia. This devoted Bellend was quick to jump to the platform after spotting the SF25 stationary on track. "I believe in karma. I really shouldn't laugh," was the caption. I, meanwhile, am starting to believe this woman is lacking a brain. You see, careful analysis of this video, and by careful analysis I mean looking at it for 5 f***ing seconds, will help you realise that this is simply a practice start. There's nothing untoward going on at all. So, as usual, here are my favourite replies from those in the comments below. Another f***ing idiot exposed on F1 Twitter. "Why have you not deleted this yet? Your driver got sent to Williams, so yeah, you definitely shouldn't laugh." Lise, Oh, regarded science fan. Sorry, I thought that said something else. There we go, that's better. Big thank you to the 2 Bellend hunters who pointed this out to me. And if you'd like to nominate the next ex-Bellend of the week, use the hashtag on screen, @me on the platform, or join the Discord server. Now, back to the news. Oh, look, actually, what the f*** is that? Some teams don't need a launch event to cause controversy, you just need an OnlyFans model who makes a living by shagging as many people as possible in under 12 hours. That said, I make a living virtually shagging Daniel Ricciardo, so maybe I can't have an opinion here. This is the last year of the Stake Formula 1 team, before it transitions into Audi for 2026, and perhaps that's a good thing, as judging from the news this week, it might not be the Stake F1 team for very much longer. Stake have this week been forced to remove their services from the UK, following an advert featuring now infamous OnlyFans model Bonnie Blue, who decided to stand outside Nottingham Trent University and, quote, as promised, sleep with 180 barely legal 18-year-olds, because that doesn't sound noncy whatsoever, does it? Apparently this video falls under sexual content, which you'd think would be f***ing obvious, and when you combine that with a gambling advert, the backlash comes back hard. Hard. Hats off to Sauber though, for failing to apologise or even acknowledging the drama, and instead incorporating it into their new livery, with its inspiration taken off of a swab taken from Bonnie Blue's vagina. Anyway, on the subject of companies that are on the rocks, our final story this week involves none other than the FIA, but hold on, this is actually good news for once. Following their booing at F1's 75, it appears that Ben Sulayem has finally worked out that people don't like him very much. In order to appease the crowds of angry Formula 1 fans, he's gone into his big book of things they actually want and spurt some shit about the return of V10s. Now look, I'm not saying this wouldn't be a desirable idea. In fact, I think all of the 40-year-old traditional fans still capable of producing semen have just unloaded over their computer screens at its very mention. Problem is, it's just not very practical. F1 has just got some huge manufacturers on board. You've got the likes of Audi, Ford, General Motors, even potentially Toyota if Haas can be somewhat competent this year. A lot of those are joining based on the engine regulations and what R&D they can take back to their road car division. And while we'd still be looking at a future for the synthetic fuels and hybrid technology, I'm not quite sure how many of those companies are looking for engines that rupture your eardrums or guzzle fuel like your mum guzzles my cock. On that lovely image, I think we'll leave the comedy review for today. Go and check out my thoughts on F1's 75 if you haven't already. Oh, and before you do that, make sure you've liked, commented, and subscribed, and all the other shit we YouTubers ask you to do. Big thank you to the members and patrons who get this one early, and if you want to be part of that, links are down in the description. As for the rest of you, well, you can f*** off.